All right, so this is going to be another movie review. This one's called Street Fighter 1994. Giving it 2 out of 5 stars. I dislike this flick. This is going to be another Karate Man recommendation. Street Fighter is a 1994 action film directed by Stephen E. De Souza, based on the video game series of the same name, produced by Capcom. So my friend from college days, or post-college days, during college days, he was pumping quarters into the Street Fighter 2 machine at Round Table Pizza in Menlo Park. Smoking cigarettes all the while. Inside the restaurant, I might add. So that was a scene in the early 90s, Street Fighter 2 mania. And I knew I should have known that I was going to dislike this. Seeing as how Jean-Claude Van Damme is trying to be lamestream, and the movie is based on a video game. You know the movie's going to be bad if it's based on a video game, unless it's by Yui Boll. It was one of the 2 films released in 1994, specifically adapting Street Fighter 2, following Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, which I have not seen. Thanks be to God. Distributed by Universal Pictures in the United States and Columbia TriStar Film Distributors Internationally, the film stars Jean-Claude Van Damme and Raul Julia in his final technical film role. Talk about going out with in a whimper. Raul Julia's last theatrical film role, along with supporting performances by Byron Mann. Don't know who he is. Damian Chapa. He was in Under Siege 2 years prior. Kylie Monique, have no idea who she is. Ming-Na Wen plays Chun-Li. She's pretty good looking. Ming-Na Wen. We like Ming-Na Wen in this movie. We like some of the explosions, some of the stupid dialogue. No. The stupid dialogue was pretty bad. Wesley Studi plays Sagat. He's a native guy. He's wearing the eye patch as Sagat. The adaptation focuses on efforts by Colonel Guile Van Damme to bring down General M. Bison Julia, the military dictator and drug kingpin of Shadaloo City, who aspires to conquer the world with an army of genetic super soldiers while enlisting the aid of Street Fighters Ryu, Mann, and Ken Chapa to infiltrate Bison's empire and help destroy it from within. Okay. The film was commercially successful with a worldwide box office gross approximately 3 times its production costs. Home video releases and television broadcasts were also profitable, while it earned Capcom a return of 15.5 billion yen, or 165 million, from the box office and home media. It was poorly received by critics and fans for its campy tone, unfaithfulness to the source material, and overblown effects. However, Julia's performance as M. Bison was singled out for widespread critical acclaim and garnered him a posthumous nomination for Best Supporting Actor at the Saturn Awards. Are you kidding me? just because he can bulge his eyeballs and yell silly lines, that makes him best supporting actor? I don't think so. The film was Julia's final theatrical performance as he died of a stroke 2 months before the film was released. The film is dedicated to his memory. I wonder what was the stroke was caused by. Did he smoke cigarettes? I don't know. There were a lot of cigarette smokers in the early 90s. In the Southeast Asian nation of Shadaloo, civil war occurs between the forces of drug lord turned General M. Bison and the Allied nations led by Colonel William F. Guile. Okay. I guess Jean-Claude Van Damme is working for the UN, which has been renamed the AN, which is a war-making globalist organization under the guise of peacemaking, I guess, sort of like our current UN. Bison captures 63 AN relief workers and via a live broadcast demands Guile secure a US dollar amount of 20 billion ransom. In 3 days, Guile refuses and he vows to track Bison down and place him on trial for his crimes. His assistant, Lieutenant Cammy White, is only partially able to pinpoint Bison's location to the river delta region outside the city. One hostage is Guile's friend, Sergeant Carlos Charlie Blanca, who Bison orders taken to his lab for his captive scientist, Dr. Dowsum, to turn into the first of his super soldiers. Though Charlie is severely disfigured gradually by the procedure, Dowsum securely alters his cerebral programming to maintain Charlie's humanity. American con artists and martial artists Ryu Hoshi and Ken Masters attempt to swindle arms dealer Victor Sagat by selling him fake weaponry. Sagat sees through the ruse and has Ryu fight his cage champion Vega. However, Guile bursts in and arrests everyone present for violating a curfew. On the prison grounds, he witnesses Ryu and Ken fighting Sagat's men, and he recruits them to help him find Bison in exchange for their freedom, since Sagat is Bison's arms supplier. They are given a homing device, and they win Sagat's trust by staging a prison escape and faking Guile's death. News reporter Chun-Li Zhang, whose father was killed by Bison 20 years earlier, and her crew, former sumo wrestler Edmund Honda and boxer Balrog, who are out for revenge against Sagat for ruining their careers, stumble across the plan. Over Guile's objections, they attempt to assassinate Bison and Sagat at a party. To maintain the warlord's trust, Ryu and Ken stop the assassination, revealing the conspirators to Bison. Returning to his base, Bison inducts Ryu and Ken into his organization, and he orders Honda and Balrog imprisoned and Chun-Li taken to his quarters. Ryu and Ken break Balrog and Honda out of confinement and rush to confront Bison, who is fighting Chun-Li. Bison escapes and he releases sleeping gas, sedating them all. Guile plans his assault on Bison's base. He's impeded by the AN, who decide to pay Bison the ransom. Nevertheless, Guile and his loyal troops proceed with the mission. So they choose war over diplomacy. Okay. As you can see, this movie may as well have been a cartoon because it's got a comic book kind of story behind it, I guess. Whoever wrote this was writing for the intelligence of a 3-year-old, I think. At the base, Dalsum is found out by his security guard. During the ensuing fight, Charlie is released and he kills the guard to protect Dalsum. Guile arrives, Guile sneaks into the lab and he encounters Charlie. Guile prepares to shoot Charlie in the head to end his suffering. But Dalsum stops him. Bison prepares to kill the hostages by unleashing Charlie on them, but Guile emerges and Guile engages Bison's guards until the remaining AN forces arrive. After Bison makes it clear that he will not surrender peacefully, Guile orders his allies to rescue the hostages, and he engages Bison in a personal duel. As Guile and Bison fight, Ryu and Ken defeat Sagat and Vega. Bison's computer expert DJ flees through a secret passage joined by Sagat. Bison's bodyguard Zangief engages Honda in a fight until learning from DJ that Bison was a true enemy of freedom and peace, and he sides with Ryu and Ken to save the hostages. Wow. What an amazing backstory. Van Damme in his peak. Yeah, tried to be in a lamestream movie. Okay, Karate Man's in the chat room. I'm disappointed by his recommendation, but that doesn't stop Karate Man from liking it. Australian singer Kylie Minogue is in this too. The blonde hair female fighter Cammy. Oh, that's nice. Okay, we have an Australian in this movie. That's like saying, that's like saying Olivia Fig Newton-John was in Xanadu. Street Fighter is not one of the best Van Damme movies, but still a fun one. Well, I like the explosions in some of the fight scenes, but the rest of the movie stunk really bad. Obviously not as great as Bloodsport, Kickboxer, Cyborg, Death Warrant, Double Impact, Lionheart, and many others. Yeah. They shouldn't have put him in lamestream movie. Guile gains the upper hand against Bison, and he kicks him into a bank of hard drives, electrocuting him. Despite the fact that Bison can levitate, he manages to kick him in the chest, and he ends up exploding his computer. He ends up banging into his computer screen, and then the fireworks go off. A revival system restores Bison, who reveals that his suit has advanced automatic first aid mechanisms and electronic weaponry, including superconducting boots that enable him to fly. These gadgets allow Bison to gain the upper hand to beat Guile. As he moves to deal the death blow, Guile counters by kicking Bison into his monitor wall, which explodes with fireworks, apparently killing him and overloading the base's energy storage system. The hostages are rescued, but Guile says behind. Guile stays behind to convince Dalsum and Charlie to return with him. They refuse, with Dalsum wishing to atone for his responsibilities in mutilating Charlie. Guile flees the exploding base and reunites with his comrades. So Dalsum, instead of brainwashing Charlie with images of death and destruction, he starts showing them images of Martin Luther King Jr., if you can believe that. Oh, this movie is a mess. The film's production budget was 4 billion yen, or $35 million, with Capcom alone financing most of the budget. Because Capcom was co-financier of the film, every aspect of production required their approval. Among other points, they mandated a December 1994 release date, which required the cast and crew to maintain an aggressive filming schedule. De Souza says he wrote the initial draft of the script overnight. And it shows. Being made aware that Capcom executives were in Los Angeles on short notice, and because he himself was a fan of the game. Wow. So you have a fan of a video game writing the script. That sounds about right. Capcom had long envisioned Jean-Claude Van Damme as Guile and asked him to be cast. Raul Julia said that he accepted the role of Bison because his children are huge fans of the video game series. After Van Damme and Julia were cast as Guile and Bison, most of the casting budget had been spent. Van Damme's fee alone took nearly $8 million of the film's $35 million budget. This meant the majority of other parts had to go to little-known or unknown actors, such as Byron, Mann, Damian, Chapa. I mentioned Damian Chapa was in Under Siege, 1992, which is also on my list of movies to watch, thanks to Karate Man's diligence of putting whatever Steven Seagal, Jean-Claude Van Damme movies from the 90s on my list. Peter Navy Telescopo and Grand L. Bush. I don't even know any of these people except for Damian Chapa, I mentioned, was in Under Siege. Kylie Minogue was cast as Cammy as a result of the Australian Actors Guild wanting De Souza to hire an Australian actor. Oh. So that's the reason why Kylie Minogue made it into the film. They were using affirmative action for Australia. By the time he received the request, Cammy was the only part not yet cast. De Souza first learned of Minogue on her cover photo on a world's 30 most beautiful people edition of Who magazine. Japanese actor Kenya Sawada appeared in the film as part of a promotional contract with Capcom. Capcom originally wanted Sawada to play the role of Ryu, but De Souza remained resolute and stuck with Mann for the role. The cast's physical training was handled by Hollywood trainer and world karate champion Benny Urquidez. Oh, we love Benny Urquidez in this channel. He's our favorite kickboxer champion. Benny the Jet Urquidez, who also appears in the film as one of Sagat's henchmen. I better put him in the description. Benny the Jet Urquidez. I didn't even notice him in this one. I'm going to fix that right now. Uh, Benny the Jet Urquidez worked on this, and he appeared in the film. Wow, that's very intriguing. Well, I just put his name in the description and the tags, so there we go. Charlie, well, what does Karate Man say? More Raul, Julia have to look forward to is the main villain in the Rookie 1990, which you're reviewing in 2 weeks. Maybe 1 week, because I deleted Best of the Best 3, seeing as how it got taken down from YouTube. What else is this? I'm not looking forward to the Rookie. The same year, Van Damme did Time Cop in 1994, which is miles and miles better, one of his best. Okay, so it's not lamestream like this movie. Lionheart is the true Street Fighter movie with Van Damme because there is actually street fighting in it. Street Fighter does not take place in the streets. The fights are in different locations. Yeah. So in other words, the film has nothing to do with the video game, even though it was written by a fan of the video game. Charlie Cerny was hired as a stunt coordinator. He took the job with the condition that he would need ample time to train the cast. Souza agreed, however, plans were switched once it was learned that Raul Julia was suffering from cancer. So he had cancer and he died from a stroke. Yeah. I think it was God's maybe it was God's anger at Raul Julia. I just remember him from the Addams Family series. I don't really care about these lamestream actors, honestly. Initially, plans were to shoot Julia's less intensive scenes while the rest of the cast would train with Cerny. However, upon seeing Julia, De Souza realized that they could not show him in his current weakened state, and he was forced to switch the filming around. This led to an environment where the cast would be trained only right before their scenes, sometimes 1 hour ahead. Oh, sometimes only hours ahead. Sorry. De Souza stated that he did not want to make a generic martial arts movie. Bummer. And described the film as a cross between Star Wars, James Bond, and a war film. Wow. That's a stretch. In addition, he indicated that he also did not want to shoehorn in elements from the games, citing the previous year's poorly received Super Mario Brothers film as an example. Now, that's the film I want to see. Super Mario Brothers. De Souza said that he avoided the supernatural elements and powers from the games, but would hint at their use for a sequel. There's a sequel to this? Or they were just dreaming of a sequel until they got bad reviews. I don't know. Until Jean-Claude Van Damme spent his $8 million on cocaine Street Fighter was filmed mostly in Queensland, Australia, along the famous Gold Coast during the second and third quarters of 1994, with most of the interiors and exteriors filmed in sound stages in Brisbane. Some exterior scenes were filmed in Bangkok, Thailand, which were used as the background for the fictitious Shadaloo city. The Bangkok scenes were filmed first in the second quarter of 1994, with filming in Australia beginning after 3 weeks in Bangkok. Souza envisioned the attack on Bison's hideout to include helicopters, but he was unable to do so due to the political instability in neighboring Myanmar, which is why the AN troops attacked via boats instead. This was referenced in the film's final script. The MPAA gave the first submitted film. The MPAA gave the first submitted cut of the film an R classification. This was unacceptably high for Capcom, who had stated from the start that it should be a PG-13 film. After various cuts were made, according to D'Souza, a G rating was given, which was bumped up to PG-13 with the addition of an expletive in post-production. I guess that expletive was Jean-Claude Van Damme calling Raul Julia penis head, which was actually quite funny. It was unintentionally funny. Watching Jean-Claude Van Damme cursing. It wanted to be one of those so bad that it's good type movies, but it just dragged on and on and on like a bad comic book. The post-credits scene where Bison is revived was omitted from the theatrical release out of deference to Raul Julia, but it was retained in home video and DVD releases. All right. The music soundtrack was released on December 6, 1994 by Priority Records, featuring mostly rap or hip-hop, which predates the soundtrack of Street Fighter 3, Third Strike. So there is a sequel. No, that's the video game. The soundtrack found mild success. It's horrible. It is horrible commercial rap. Peaking at number 135 on the Billboard 200 and number 34 on the top R&B hip-hop albums. More lamestream music on a lamestream movie. Upon its release on home video in the UK, the soundtrack was given away free with every purchase of the VHS tape at branches of Tesco for a limited period, although this was the only way for anybody in the UK to purchase the CD. Straight to My Feet by MC Hammer. Hammer Time was still released as a single, which charted number 57 in the UK. MC Hammer was stupid. He gave away all his money to his friends, and he went broke. And he's local from Oakland, if I'm not mistaken. MC Hammer. Hammer Time. Can't touch this. Graham of Ravel composed the film score, an hour of which was released by Varis Saraband. Ravel ignored previously existing music from the franchise. The music differs from Ravel's more popular style, most notably with the absence of pervasive electronic elements, and is entirely orchestral, as the score is performed by the London Symphony Orchestra. The campy style of the film is reflected in The score's parody cues the music during the scene where Ryu faces Vega in the cage fight quotes George Bizet's habanera from the opera Carmen, and a theme heard throughout the score, particularly in the track Colonel Guile addresses the troops, is reminiscent of Bruce Broughton's main theme for Tombstone. All right. So after reading this, I think I'll add Mario Brothers. Mario Brothers. Super Mario Brothers, excuse me. Street Fighter had opened in New York and Los Angeles on December 23rd, 1994. Release dates December 23rd, 1994 in the United States and May 6th, 1995 in Japan. Running time 102 minutes, way too long. A budget of $35 million and a box office of $99.4 million. Lame stream. We try to avoid lame stream movies on this channel, but Karate Man is very diligent about bringing them back to my list. The film earned $3.124775 million on its opening day. It grossed $9.508030 million on its opening weekend, ranking at number 3 behind Dumb and Dumber and the Santa Claus at the box office. On its second weekend, it grossed $7.178360 million and dropped down to number 7. The film grossed $33.423521 million at the box office, at the domestic box office, and another $66 million at the international box office, making a total of $99,423,521 worldwide. According to the shareholders meeting at Capcom, the movie is still making money at only tens of millions of yen each year. The film was released on VHS format in 1995, initially for video rental stores. In the U.S., the film sold more than 250,000 rental tapes in 1995. The film was also broadcast on cable television, and later it was released on DVD, Blu-ray, and digital streaming. I watched it on Tubi for free. Thank you, Karate Man, for recommending a Tubi film. So I didn't have to pay $2 or $5 or whatever they charge on YouTube and Amazon Prime. That was decent. That was the only reason why I watched this, honestly. It was free. And Karate Man recommended it. The film's home video releases and television broadcasts have been profitable for Capcom, which earned a return of 15.5 billion yen, or $165 million, from the film's box office and home video revenue. Leonard Maltin gave the film his lowest rating, writing that even Jean-Claude Van Damme fans couldn't rationalize this bomb, as evidenced by Karate Man saying this is not one of Jean-Claude Van Damme's best films. Richard Harrington of the Washington Post said the film was notable only for being the last film made by Raul Julia, an actor far too skilled for the demands of the evil warlord General M. Bison, but far too professional to give anything less than his best, which I guess involves bulging his eyeballs and yelling stupid lines. Critic Stephen Holden The New York Times referred to the film as a dreary, overstuffed hodgepodge of poorly edited martial arts sequences and often unintelligible dialogue. Yeah, tell me about it. The inane dialogue in this movie is what irritated me the most. Okay, if it was an Ed Wood movie, it could deal with it, but this is a lamestream movie, so it gets an F in the dialogue department. F minus. Writing for Variety, Emmanuel Levy stated the film suffers from the same problems that appear Super Mario Brothers, which I want to see now. I want to see if Super Mario Brothers is one of those so bad that it's good type movies, because they keep comparing it to Super Mario Brothers. It's noisy, overblown, and effects laden, and lacks sustained action or engaging characters. Levy commented on Julia, referring to it as his weakest performances, accentuating each and every syllable as if he were reciting a Shakespearean role of grand emotional rage. Good point. It's too bad for this accomplished actor's last film and is dedicated to him. Talk about going out in a whimper. I understand that he had health problems, but yeah. Maybe this movie gave him a stroke. Leslie Felperin of Sight and Sound described Kyle Minogue as Cammy, hilarious miscasting as a military wench with Heidi plates. The merest glimpse of her holding a bazooka and looking mean is enough to induce giggles in the most dour of viewers. David Hunter of The Hollywood Reporter said the film is neither a satisfying martial arts exercise for star Jean-Claude Van Damme nor the irresistible mainstream diversion it strives for. Now, I didn't rate it a 1 out of 5 because there are some decent explosions in this. And Jean-Claude Van Damme does some decent kicks, like the one sending Bison to the computer wall. Okay. And he's got this silly U.S. flag tattooed on his arm. He's not even U.S., he's Belgian or something. Probably speaks French. Anyways, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of a B- on an A+ to F scale. That's pretty high rating, B-. I'm giving it a 2 out of 5. IMDb has a low rating of 4.1 out of 10, which is very similar to my rating, actually. On the review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes, 11% of the reviews critics were positive, with an average rating of 3.4 out of 10. The Rotten Tomatoes is actually more realistic of a rating, I think. The website's critics' consensus reads, though it offers mild entertainment through campy one-liners and the overacting of the late Raul Julia. Yeah, Raul Julia's hamming it up for the camera. He thinks he's Bison. Street Fighter's nonstop action sequences are not enough to make up for a predictable, uneven storyline. Metacritic, which assigns a weighted average, gave a score of 34 out of 100, which is exactly the same as Rotten Tomatoes, based on 21 reviews, indicating generally unfavorable reviews. You can add mine to that list, although I'm rating it a little bit higher. Higher than Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes, but lower than IMDb. In 2009, Time listed the film on their list of top 10 worst video game movies. Game Trailers ranked the film as the eighth worst video game movie of all time. The film also received 2 nominations at the Saturn Awards, Best Science Fiction Film and Best Supporting Actor, a posthumous nomination for Raul Julia. These Saturn Awards people must be high as a kite. A one-shot comic book adaptation of the film titled Street Fighter: The Battle for Shadaloo was published by DC Comics in 1995. It's probably about the same quality as the movie. The comic was drawn by Nick J. Napolitano and written by Michael McAvaney. Japanese one-shot manga adaptation by Takayuki Sakai. Excuse me, part of my Japanese. Was also published in the June 1995 issue of Koro Koro Comic Special. I don't think I'll be collecting that comic book anytime soon. 2 video games based on the film were produced. The first was a coin-operated arcade game titled Street Fighter: The Movie, produced by American developer Incredible Technologies and distributed by Capcom. The second was a home video game developed by Capcom, also titled Street Fighter: The Movie, released for PlayStation and Sega Saturn. Despite sharing the same title, neither game is a port of the other. Is that a misspelling on Wikipedia? Neither game is a part of the other, although they both use the same digitized footage of the film's cast posing as the characters in each game. Capcom also announced that an enhanced port was being created for Sega 32X by their newly formed USA Research and Development Department. This version was never released. Many plot elements of the film, such as Blanca Charlie's identity, Chun-Li's role as a journalist reporter, Ryu and Ken's role as con artists, Dhalsim's role as a scientist, Zangief's role as Bison's muscle, and Sagat's role as a crime boss were reused in the US-produced 1995 Street Fighter animated series, a follow-up to this film, which combined story aspects of the film with those in the games such as Street Fighter II Turbo, Street Fighter Alpha 2, and Final Fight. Both Dan Hikebe and Jen were the only Street Fighters to be cut out of the show. Canceled sequel and reboots. By 2003, plans were being made for a sequel, Street Fighter II. Rumored cast members included Van Damme, Dolph Lundgren, and Holly Valance. The project never materialized, probably because Van Damme spent all the money on cocaine. In 2009, 20th Century Fox released Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li to even worse reception than the original. I want to see that. I want to see Super Mario Brothers and Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li. In 2014, Street Fighter: Assassin's Fist was released in both television series and movie format in YouTube, focusing on Ryu and Ken's training under Goken, as well as Goken's troubled relationship with his brother Akuma over the Dark Hadu. The series was met with widespread acclaim and is currently considered the best live-action adaptation of the series to date. Okay, I don't want to see that one. On April 3rd, 2023, it was reported that Legendary Entertainment had acquired the film rights to the Street Fighter games and Legendary Entertainment had begun work on a new live action film with talks of Alan Ritchson on board to portray Guile. The film is scheduled to release on March 20th, 2026 by Sony Pictures Releasing. What an enormously long. So Karate Man just retracted all of his comments. I think he was expecting me to like this movie somehow because it had Jean-Claude Van Damme in it. We're sort of a we like Cyborg and we like what's the other movie he was in? Bloodsport. We like Cyborg and Bloodsport. We do not like Street Fighter on this channel. Street Fighter, 1994, PG-13, 1 hour 42 minutes, too long. The DVD cover just had Van Damme on some sort of big screen television, and he's behind Raul Julia in his floating thing that he likes to stand in. I go, everything is levitating with this guy Bison. All right, so it gets a low 4.1 out of 10 on IMDb, 76,000 ratings. So a lot of people have seen this, 76,000. And it's, in terms of popularity, it's rated 1,815 in terms of popularity. So here we have a very popular lamestream movie that Karate Man likes because Jean-Claude Van Damme is in it. In the midst of a civil war in Southeast Asia, a general intensifies the climate of violence by kidnapping 63 UN delegates. I thought they were AN delegates, but it might as well be UN delegates. To free the hostages, a colonel leads a group of fighters who will have to use all their skills to be successful. Okay. Here we go. More like this. Street Fighter, The Legend of Chun-Li, which I am going to look up. I will add it to my list if I can find it. Double Impact, a Double Team, and Mortal Kombat. I think Adrian mentioned Double Team. Okay. It gets a slightly higher rating on IMDb with Dennis Rodman. Double Team. Oh, no. The one that Adrian mentioned was Double Impact. I'm sorry. I stand corrected. Double Impact is the one that Adrian mentioned. It gets a higher rating of 5.6. I want to see Street Fighter, The Legend of Chun-Li because it gets a 3.7. Colonel William Guile leads an army of soldiers into the country of Shadaloo to find traces to lead him to General M. Bison, who has captured many people, including 3 missing soldiers. Among them is Carlos Charlie Blanca, in which Bison decides to turn into a hideous mutant. On the other hand, Chun-Li is a reporter who seeks revenge against Bison for the death of her father years ago. Then 2 small-time hustlers, Ryu and Ken, are arrested, along with Sagat, a powerful arms dealer, and Vega for dealing of illegal weapons. Guile recruits them in order to find Bison's base Now Guile, T-Hawk, Cammy, Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, Balrog, and E. Honda have 3 days before Bison murders the hostages and takes over the world. This is rated PG for non-stop martial arts and action violence. Although at one point it was rated R. I would like to have seen the R-rated cut actually of this. It might have been better. I don't know. Jean-Claude Van Damme revealed later that during filming he had a drug problem, doing 10 grand worth of cocaine a week, which is probably why there was no sequel until Chun-Li. what is it called? Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li. This is going to be fun to watch, I think. And he was having an affair with Kylie Minogue, the Australian blondie, who looked ridiculous with her grenade launcher thing, whatever that thing is. Director Stephen E. D'Souza confirmed in 2018 that Van Damme's cocaine addiction caused constant disruptions during filming. The studio had hired a wrangler to keep an eye on Van Damme, but this person was a bad influence himself. The action star would often come in sick, leave the show up late, or not at all, forcing Souza to find other scenes to film in order to make up for lost time. When Chun-Li says Bison's ammunitions are about to be blown sky high, her lips don't match her words. Quotes. Okay, here we go. Here are some quotes from Chun-Li. To Bison, it was 20 years ago. You hadn't promoted yourself to general yet. You were just a petty drug lord. You and your gang of murderers gathered your small ounce of courage to raid across the border for food weapons. Humph, slave labor. My father was a village magistrate, a simple man with a simple code, justice. He gathered the few people that he could to stand against you. You and your bullies were driven back by farmers with pitchforks. My father saved his village at the cost of his own life. You had him shot as you run away. A hero at 1,000 paces. Bison says, I'm sorry. I don't remember any of it. You don't, Chun-Li says, you don't remember? Bison, for you, the day Bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday. There is a scene after the closing credits. M. Bison is revived by his computer and restarts his plans for world domination. Oh, so this was supposed to be the sequel before they realized that Jean-Claude Van Damme had a cocaine problem. The title sequence is different depending whether you watch the international version distributed by Columbia. The Street Fighter logo just appears after the Columbia lettering, or the US version distributed by Universal. The Street Fighter logo appears over the Universal globe. This was featured in Violence and the Censors, 1995. I want to see Violence in the Censors. So we got 3 movies that I want to see. Super Mario Brothers, Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li, and also Violence in the Censors. The soundtrack, Street Fighter, performed by Ice Cube and written by Ice Cube. Ice Cube Records exclusively for Priority Records, and Ice Cube appears courtesy of Priority Records. So I guess I'll put music by Ice Cube in the description. An enjoyable romp. I think Street Fighter is a better movie than the abysmal 4.4 out of 10 IMDb rating suggests. This is by Thomas Colquith, dated September 25th, 2021. So this is a recent review. He's given it a 7 out of 10. I rated it a 7 out of 10 because I enjoyed it that much, even though it is kind of corny and silly, but that is the point. It is just intended to be that kind of film, and I think it succeeds at that. Look how Bison uses buttons and a joystick to set off river mines. Obviously a nod to the gaming console. It celebrates all of this more than poking fun at it or succumbing to it. I thought that the filmmakers did a fine job of achieving what they set out to do. The sets were cool, cinematography good, acting adequate. The script was not real deep, but what do you expect? I thought that Raul, Julia, and Ming-Na Wen were terrific in the parts. The only change I would have made was excise the Blanca storyline, as I thought it was too dark and cruel in the context of such a silly, fun, fatuous movie. So all in all, I rated it at a 7 out of 10, though I am somewhat biased as I played Street Fighter 2 video game before and I was familiar with the characters. Yeah. So if you have the mentality of a 3-year-old, you're going to like this. This is not Lionheart or Hard Target. This is Street Fighter. All right. So I got my work cut out for me here. The final fight is pretty cool. Yeah. I have to admit, the highlight of the film was Jean-Claude Van Damme kicking Raul Julia so that he hits the computer wall. Karate Man says, Street Fighter, but there is no street fights. The final fight is pretty cool. Van Damme does his signature spinning helicopter kicks. And, of course, the badass manly testosterone muscles. I think it was cocaine muscles. The 90s, the days we missed. I love when Van Damme says, I'm going to kick that son of a bison's arse so hard the next bison wannabe is going to feel it. Now, who wants to go home? 1994 was another year full of action movies. Time Cop, On Deadly Ground, Beverly Hills Cop 3, Speed, True Lies, Drop Zone, The Specialist, Hellbound, Death Wish 5, Kickboxer 4, Double Dragon, Stargate, The Crow, Cyborg, Cop 2, Men of War, Penthalon, Crackerjack, Terminal Velocity, A Low Down Dirty Shame, Bloodfist 5, Ring of Fire 3, Cyber Tracker, Final Round, Viper, a.k.a. Bad Blood, and, of course, Chain of Command, Open Fire, Force to Kill, Deadly Target, Guardian Angel, Back in Action, Immortal Kombat, Direct Hit, Free Fall, and T-Force. The list goes on. I'm going to have to look those up, see if all those are on my list. All right. So there you have it. An almost hour of my critique with of Street Fighter. Karate Man's in the chat room all the while. Listen to me chat trash Street Fighter. The ridiculous Australian actor is not something good. She was miscast, and so was Raul Julia and Jean-Claude Van Damme and everybody else in this movie. So I'm almost up over an hour. I've got my work. Oh, yeah, Outside the Law with David Bradley. Okay. Oh, yeah, Outside the Law, aka Blood Run with David Bradley. But it's more erotic thriller, I believe, not much action. Okay. Well, I'm going to update my list, and I'm up over an hour now. Laters.